evening. It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, February 28, 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The U.S. Embassy in Tirana reacted today to the resignation of former MP Armando Prenga. As in former elections, the U.S. Embassy calls on Albanian citizens and Albanian institutions to be vigilant when considering candidates for the June 18th election. The reaction reads, the U.S. Embassy welcomes former parliamentarian Armando Prenga's departure from the parliament. Those with criminal records have no place in parliament, courts, government, or municipalities of a NATO member country that aspires to join the EU. We encourage the Albanian people and Albanian institutions to be vigilant in preventing criminals from becoming candidates in the June 18th elections. Albanians deserve to have a clean political and judicial system free from the influence of organized crime and corruption, reads the U.S. Embassy's reaction. The Directory of Money Laundering Prevention presented its report to the Parliamentary Commission of National Security. According to the report, during 2016, the Directory made 1,300 reportings of suspicious transactions. It blocked 28.77 million euro and has filed criminal proceedings for 184 cases. The chairman of the commission has deduced that second-level banks have the most suspicious transactions. Furthermore, the report notes that drug trafficking generates dirty money, which is then being invested into construction. The acting general director of the Directory of Money Laundering Prevention spoke at the commission about the existence of a secret list with names of people who finance terrorism from Albania. The Directory also raised its concern about the frequent clashes it has had with the prosecution regarding money laundering cases, and that dirty money is being transferred out of Albania through customs points, as the proper checks fail to be conducted due to corruption. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ditmir Bushati, attended the 34th session of the UN Human Rights Council today, where he declared that Albania has measures for countering radicalism and violent extremism on focus. Albania has increased its focus on preventing terrorism. A wiser counterterrorism policy is one that respects human rights. Albania has put in place a number of measures to prevent and counter extremist and radical actions. Albania is committed to giving its contributions to the Security Council in addressing issues related to human rights, with radicalism and extremism remaining the greatest challenges, Bushati said. The foreign minister also noted that respect for and protection of minority rights is one of the Albanian government's top priorities. According to the minister, respecting and protecting minority rights is a key to a successful good neighbor policy. In this framework, the foreign minister emphasized the need for more international efforts to tackle armed conflicts in Syria and Iraq. Albania has been a member state of the UN Human Rights Council since 2015. France and Albania will operate with joint investigative groups in the fight against terrorism, corruption, and organized crime. The Minister of Interior, Samir Tahiri, received Mr. Bruno Leroux, his French counterpart, today. After their meeting, both ministers gave a joint press conference, emphasizing that increased cooperation is necessary. Minister Tahiri denounced the Albanian court decisions for Albanian citizens who have violated the law in France. On this point, the minister reiterated the need for the judicial reform. I informed my colleague about our fight against drugs, and we discussed joint investigations for organized crime. I also informed my colleague about the necessity of the judicial reform. Putting the judicial reform on top of the agenda is a necessity. Vetting is of maximum priority and the best way to build a fairer Albania. We should have solid results through cooperation. A closer cooperation is needed. Cases when Albanian courts have liberated people who committed crimes in France have not damaged our cooperation, but they highlight the necessity of the judicial reform. There are spaces to cooperate more. Liberating Albania of corrupt judges is a necessity, declared the Minister of Interior. The French Minister of Interior commented on illegal migration, declaring that though Albanian citizens are welcome in France, they should respect the laws of the French state. France is a country that welcomes people, but it expects them to respect the laws. We welcome students and Albanian artists who want to visit our country. However, we plan to intensify the policies against illegal migration, declared the French minister, adding that his visit is in the framework of cooperation between the two countries. The French Minister of Interior also visited the Tirana Police Directory. Recently, the Minister of Justice had written his concerns regarding the IMO board in 2 letters. In the second letter, dated February 20, the minister said that the board had contacted the General Secretary of the Prime Minister's office, who, according to the minister, is a civil employee. The letters explained the minister's concern about the role the managing IMO board will have in the vetting process, asking that this body be adopted in Parliament to avoid any misunderstandings during the implementation process. According to the minister, this would defend the legal integrity of the vetting process. Today, the chair of the International Monitoring Role, Genoveva Ruiz Calavera, made a statement expounding on the role of the IMO in response to the concerns the Minister of Justice has publicly expressed. Clarifying that the IMO has a purely administrative role and that Albanian institutions make all executive decisions, Calavera wrote, further to the note from Commissioner Hahn to the attention of the Prime Minister, I have been asked to provide additional explanations to complement the information already provided in the above letter. First, as for the nature and tasks of the governing board of the IMO, let me reiterate that this body has a purely administrative nature. Its tasks could be compared to those of a project management unit and aims to facilitate the joint work of the European Commission and the U.S. government under my chairmanship. Second, let me emphasize that all the recommendations in relation to the current selection of candidates for the formation of the vetting organs and the future vetting of the judiciary will be carried out by the international observers that have been or will be appointed to the IMO to that effect. Let me also underline again that the IMO is a strictly non-executive operation whose only aim is to monitor and provide recommendations throughout the vetting process, writes Calavera, adding that all executive decisions belong to the institutions of Albania. The letter concludes, lastly, in order to facilitate communication and avoid any confusion, I will be referring solely to the IMO in future official exchanges. Prime Minister Rama held a meeting today with some entrepreneurs to discuss the judicial reform. During the meeting, the Prime Minister spoke against the administrative courts, which, according to him, take money from the entrepreneurs, yet another reason, he added, that unblocking the vetting process is necessary to clean the justice system of corrupt judges. During his speech, the Prime Minister highlighted cases when corrupt judges have taken properties from the state or from citizens. The Prime Minister called on entrepreneurs to increase their pressure on the opposition to stop blocking the vetting. We are at a moment when we need to unblock the vetting process. It is not a political or party issue. It is a great issue of national concern. These people, who for 20 years have turned the justice system into a market where rights are sold and bought just like meat, these people must get what they deserve. They should disappear, declared the Prime Minister. The head of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nikolin Jaka, also highlighted the necessity of vetting for private entrepreneurs, saying, the banking system has serious problems with the justice system. We should establish dialogue in the banking system. Private entrepreneurs should be fierce in asking for vetting from the political class. The vetting process is also in the opposition's interests, said the head of the Chamber of Commerce. During the meeting with the Prime Minister, entrepreneurs brought several examples of corrupt court cases in and emphasized the need to implement the judicial reform. The The Democratic Party chairman, Lulzum Basha, held a meeting with retirees at the opposition's tent, which is still set up on the boulevard outside the Prime Minister's office, now in its 11th day of protest against the government. The opposition leader promised that his government will increase pensions with no pension lower than 250,000 lek. Within the next 4 years, I will increase pensions by 40% so that we do not have a pension lower than 250,000 lek. This could be achieved by a government that thinks of its people, by a government dedicated to the fate of every social category and especially to the retirees, said the DP chairman. He also said that the current government is in conflict of interest with free and fair elections. We will not accept less than a European citizen would accept free and fair elections without drugs. For this reason, the establishment of a provisional government is necessary. This Prime Minister is in conflict of interest with free elections, and this is the reason to set up the provisional government. This is a battle not only for the upcoming elections, but also for the new Albania. Basha added that the Democratic Party's cause has now become international and has Brussels' support. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.